Welcome back to the Today with Tally podcast. Folks, we have a great show in store for you today. We sit down with a U.S. Marine combat veteran that would end up walking across America. That's right, folks, 5,807 miles. We find out why next. But first,
hello, friends, and welcome to another exciting episode of Today with Tally. The mission and goal of this podcast is to bring an engaging conversation that will add value to the lives of everyday people. We will inspire, encourage, educate, and tell the stories of America's finest men and women in an effort to motivate you to live your life to its fullest potential. Be sure to follow us on social media and search Today with Tally. Be sure to subscribe, follow, and share the program as well. Ladies and gentlemen, your host of the evening, Mr. Brian Tally.
After 8.5 years of honorable service, life was difficult for our next guest, John Hancock, after leaving the Marine Corps. He dealt with his issues and bad memories of drinking heavily, which led to 2 DUIs and a suicide attempt. Now, after this suicide attempt, while residing in a Baltimore VA hospital, Jonathan Hancock decided to change his life and plan to walk across America, meeting with his brothers that he served with in Ramadi. This all happened and began on September 11th, 2015. He would walk 5,807 miles, and the walk would end in Camp Pendleton at the 5th Marines War Memorial on December the 12th of 2016. This man has an incredible story, and we're going to hear it today. With that, I'm going to introduce to you Jonathan Hancock, the man, the myth, the legend himself. How are you, sir?
What's going on, brother? Thanks so much for having me. How are you?
Hey, man, I'm hanging in there and enjoying this nice cooler weather here in Houston. It's finally cooled off a little bit. I think fall is in the air. You know, we're getting ready for the pumpkin spice craze, if you will.
My wife is part of that crew, and my house smells like the inside of a pumpkin now.
You must be married too, right?
Very much so. Very much so. So yeah, she got me a great Christmas ornament yesterday. It's a skull with a Santa Claus hat on, and it says Merry Christmas, but I'm dead inside.
Merry Christmas, man. Yeah, we only have a few shopping days left, really, until Christmas, right? But you know me, I'm a Christmas Eve shopper, so.
For sure, absolutely. And Amazon delivers right up to the 11th hour, so I procrastinate.
Man, it's very good, man. You know, I'm an Amazon guy too, man. Just click a button and it, just shows up. Sometimes you can get on Amazon, it'll even deliver in like 5 hours. Yeah. It's like I'll get on there and order a shirt or a bumper sticker or something, and it says arriving in 3 hours. I'm like, damn, that was easy.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's taken all the guesswork out of everything. So,
Jonathan, where did you grow up, man?
So I grew up in I don't know. I'm a Navy brat. So I was born in Hawaii and then moved all over the world. And I call Maryland home only because I did 4 years of high school there and then went right to the Marine Corps from there. The folks resided there for many, many years before they retired.
What inspired you to join the Corps?
I guess I'm a military brat. And so I lived all over Navy bases and I saw Marines all the time. And then one day, I guess I saw one I think we were in the commissary in Upper Ruislip in England. And this force reconnaissance dude's behind me. And he looks like, he's a shit brick house. He's massive. And he's just a towering individual. He's got his dual cools on. So his jump and his bubble and it's just arms the size of your body. And I looked at him and my dad was like, you can talk to him. And I was like, hey, hello, sir. And he said, don't call me sir. And that was this weird and just interaction. And then as I turned back around, I was like, Dad, who is that? And he goes, that's a Force Reconnaissance Marine. They're the most badass things on the planet. I was like, well, that's what I want to do then. And then from that day forward, I just wanted to be a Marine. And I didn't really care about anything else. Everywhere we went, any Marine I saw, I just wanted to talk to them. Wanted to know what their MOS was. Just wanted to know who they were. And then the day I graduated from boot camp, from high school, I think I went to Beach Week for a week and underage drank and partied with my friends. And then I was on the bus and off to Paris Island.
And that you were. And there's not a lot of Marines that they can say that they actually graduated boot camp 4 days before 9/11. You graduated boot camp September 7th of 2001, and your Marine Corps days would be full of combat. Did you ever think that would ever happen when you went into the Marine Corps, that you would be spending at least a minimum of your first enlistment in war?
No, I didn't. I didn't know why. Ultimately, I didn't know what was happening and what the difference would have been, because sure, I joined in what you would consider peacetime Marine Corps, and then right, declaration of war, we're attacked, these things happen, so all of a sudden the mission shifts. I don't know if I felt any different until I got to School of Infantry, and there was an instructor at the time. His name was Sergeant Hanson, and he probably about halfway through School of Infantry, we were joking around, not taking something seriously. He got up on this Connex box and just ripped us apart. But it was in the most, it was almost fear-inducing way. He was like, "I'm not going to be here. You're going to war, not me." And it just resonated with me in a new way that, holy shit, I guess we're just going to go to war. And then, of course, 2-4, I get to the Victor unit and we get stop, loss, stop moved in Okinawa. So we miss OIF 1 altogether. And we're just stuck on the rock in Oki for a year. There was some mission that may have come up in the island of Holo against the Abu Sayyaf, but that shortly was canked and nothing happened with that. So yeah, we were given the moniker 2-4 no war for OIF 1. And when you come back from everyone being stop, loss, stop moved, and units are starting to rotate out of Baghdad, Task Force Terror was coming home. All of a sudden we're seeing, here's everyone's wearing chucks and they're finding any excuse they can to wear their uniform because they're just fruit salad stacked. And 2-4 Marines, you can tell, because we've got a good cookie and a national defense, and that's it. And it was a pissing match, and so you would see it very quickly. And it was hard for us to come back to that moniker for the rest of 5th Marines to sit there and call you 2-4 no war. So we begged and pleaded for combat, and we got everything we asked for in Ramadi when we went right around. I guess we turned right back around and went to Ramadi in 2004.
Mm-hmm.
And then, we got everything we asked for. And then
and more. The Battle of Ramadi, one of the bloodiest wars. Really the firefight would go for about 5-6 days or something like that.
The initial, what we call the Battle of Ramadi, is from April 6th, which kicks off with an ambush that kills 7, and then goes through April 10. And so that time period is known as the Battle of Ramadi. But we lost that 2-4 for that deployment from February to September. Would lose 34 dead and over 300 wounded. So that turned to a 1 in 4 casualty rate.
Incredible. Now, you were on your 10-day boot camp leave when those planes hit the towers. What were you mentally thinking as a kid who really just graduated from boot camp? Did you know, wow, I'm going to war and this is going to be, a very fascinating journey? Were you really mentally prepared for what was about to happen?
No. And after the first plane hit the building, I went back to sleep because I was told by my mother that a plane hit the World Trade Center. I thought it was a Cessna, a Piper Cub, a twin Bonanza, something small. A pilot may have, screwed something up and just smacked into a building. And so I went back to bed. Mom coming in, I don't know, 20 minutes later, another plane hits the building and she's screaming. I get up. I still don't really truly understand what I'm looking at. And then the towers start falling. And I don't think I realized then that war was coming, but my mother looked at me differently. And I guess that's probably when I started understanding the possibility of what was to come was not just any longer like a a Marine's dream to get into the fight, but more a reality.
Yes, indeed. War was imminent. And if we only knew that would be this 20-year war on terror that would end up, taking the lives of so many brave and courageous and honorable men and women. And then, unfortunately, what the war has done to the mental health of those who have served, still leading to a minimum of anywhere between 18 to 22. I've heard as high as 40 veteran suicides a day dealing from post-traumatic stress and from the wounds of war. So when people say that, oh, well, there was 3,000 killed on 9/11 and, there was 7,000 killed on the 20-year war on terror, from the U.S. military, they forget to add in all the suicides too that have taken place over the last 20 years that have contributed to that very day. On September 11th, and it will continue to haunt the United States of America for generations to come. And it's a very sad and unfortunate state that we're living in right now when it comes to post-traumatic stress and mental health. But that's where Jonathan Hancock has come into play. You yourself have dealt with some issues, alcohol, DUIs. You would find yourself in a VA hospital. One day you said, I'm going to walk across America. What inspired that?
I had attempted suicide. It was after the second DUI, almost a year to the day of the first one. I'm not even off probation yet. And the story is really kind of neat because it's luck. Because had the normal course of events played out the way they probably should have, I'm probably already dead by now. And I would have never learned the lesson. Or I would have never had the opportunity. And what I mean by that is the cop, I think the cop lost the paperwork for a few days. And instead of booking me directly there on DUI, second offense, I was booked, but I was driven home. And I was the only one in that barracks room. There was a lieutenant and there was a sergeant that had arrested me. And I think they lost the paperwork, man. And I think they took a little bit of pity on me. And for that, I'm grateful. I went home, looked at myself in the mirror, decided I didn't want to be here anymore. So I started swallowing pills and emptying the medicine cabinet into my stomach. As I'm doing that, I'm realizing, and I actually feel it, those things starting to take hold. And the cramping and blurred vision and things are starting to happen. I realize I don't want to do this. I hop in that same car that I was just pulled over with 400 meters from my house. And I just hop in that car about 4:00 in the morning and I drive to the Baltimore VA hospital. And I was cooking, man. I was breaking every law on the road. I had an Audi S4 at the time. I was probably topping 140 miles per hour to get there. I made it from College Park, Maryland to Baltimore, Maryland in 17 minutes. And that's a 45-minute to an hour drive. So I got there. I walk into the emergency room. Visually and physically, I'm not okay. I tell the lady what I had done. I'm whisked back to the back, nodes, tubes, stomach pumpings, filled with like the charcoal junk. That all happens. I'm allowed to call my folks, and I go into intake, and now I'm on the 6th floor of this. And this is probably a 2-day process, but I'm on the 6th floor of the Baltimore VA hospital in the mental ward. Or I guess whatever we're calling it. And so I'm there, and it's November of 2014. And I'm seeing, of course, the Army-Navy game comes up soon because the Army-Navy game's played almost every year at M&T Bank in Baltimore. And if not, then it's up in Philly. But this year, it just so happens it's at Baltimore. And there's a guy named Mike Vitti who had been walking across the country, walking 1 kilometer for each person that was killed in Iraq or Afghanistan since the 2001 kickoff. And he was ending at the Army-Navy game in December in Baltimore. So, of course, there's news articles. He's in Virginia at the time, and he's shoring this walk up. And that just spoke to me. And I just realized, I was like, I got to go do that. And all I could think about at the time was, I got to go meet with the guys I served with and show them like they're not screwed up. It's okay. but I wasn't yet realizing that it would be the penance walk it turned into, and it was almost a redemption for myself. That would come later. But ultimately, the impetus for it was Mike Vitti, and then after that, it was I got to go help my brothers because they're hurting, not me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how it went. So I got out of the hospital maybe about 5 or 6 days later. I played the game with the psychologists or the clinical social workers that were there. I let them hear exactly what they wanted to hear to go ahead and, expunge me from the program or whatever. And then I got out and I went to some extensive outpatient therapy thing Monday through Thursday, I think, every day at the VA hospital. But I wasn't concerned with that so much because I had gotten out. I'd found a mountain bike from a buddy of mine, and I just started smoking this mountain bike to and from menial jobs that I had at the time. And so I was doing, 30 plus miles a day on my mountain bike. And I went from 308 pounds when I got out of the hospital to 198 pounds in about 10 months, and said,
Wow.
okay, now I can go walk across the country. And because that was the plan, was to get skinny enough and to get back in shape enough to actually make this happen. And so that's kind of the whole story of how that happened. That none of that happens without that cop that night deciding to show some sort of pity, or maybe I'm using the wrong word, but to give me that opportunity.
Wow. Incredible. Now, I want to get into the mind of Jonathan Hancock the night that you decided to attempt suicide, because I think this is going to be valuable information for really anybody out there who may be going through a lot of these life struggles and challenges in their life, and to really help prevent this from further happening from other veterans. Because if we can understand what's going through the mind of a veteran at this certain stage,
Yeah,
when you decide to make that informed decision to take your own life, I think we can really save lives by talking about this and being vulnerable about it. Now, we all know that you had a triggering event, and that triggering event was your DUIs.
sure.
What led you to the drinking that night, that day, or that night? I know you had been drinking heavily, you're self-medicating. Was it all because of the anxiety that you were going through and the depression, or was it more from what you have seen? I know you've seen so many things over there. You served for 8.5 years and you have 8 tours
Right.
under your belt. So you've seen a lot of things that the majority of Americans will never see in 10 lifetimes. And a lot of those things you cannot unsee.
Sure.
What was the motivation behind picking up that bottle or those beers or whatever it may have been to literally drive yourself to want to attempt suicide, and then follow through with it with all of the pills that you were taking, and then to ultimately say, man, I don't like this feeling. I got to get my stomach pumped, and I'm going to go check myself into the VA hospital?
Yeah, I couldn't tell you what the feeling was of the day, the reason that it caused me to drink. I can tell you that I worked on the line in the kitchen at a pub, and that after work every day, it turned in, it's a college town. So what looks like a restaurant during the day turns into a house of debauchery at night for, all the college students. It's just a massive bar. And so I had, by that time I had friends, all the bouncers and wait staff and we're all just kind of it's industry people, and they all party together. And at that point, I can remember being happy, but just drinking and drinking heavily, and then driving a buddy home. I dropped him off. He lived probably, 800 meters from me. Dropped him off before continuing on. And I don't know. I don't know if it was, I can tell you that I just continued to drink because after a while it felt normal to me to do that. And the only way that I was allowing or justifying those feelings of anger or the sad feelings, the only way that I was justifiably processing them at that time was to was to numb them with alcohol so they went down a little bit better. And I guess that was it. I was kind of sick of school. I was sick of listening to these kids. You walk by these huge protest banners every day of like GTFO Afghanistan. And I'm like, okay. And then you listen to these kids in class and they don't know what they're talking about because they've never been there. And then you're there and then you try to say something and you're just labeled as, and I probably was angry. I probably said angry shit to people for sure. But that opinion or that experience was taken poorly and given poorly, I guess. And so I didn't make too many friends in all these college classes I had to take, especially in the philosophy classes or anything that's has to do with a little bit more of opinion-based ideology versus factual stuff like math or biology or science, right? So and I'm majoring in Arabic and Russian, and so I'm just surrounded by these people. And I didn't do that well. And so I drank because of that a lot, because sometimes I hated myself for certain things I would say in class. And did that come off correctly? And no, of course it didn't, because you were met with so much animosity or hate from it. And that just became a running catalyst for drinking. Was the class sucks, I don't want to deal with these idiots anymore, I'm going to drink about that. And being in a new environment where I'm leaving college, going right out into I'm leaving the military and dumping right into college. I'm 2 weeks late for these classes when I first started this whole thing. 2 weeks prior, I'm in a gunfight. So the transition was wrong. I had done things incorrectly. And then I found drinking as a coping mechanism. And that was just, regardless of what I was feeling on the day that I decided, it was the coping mechanism and it was the numbing that I was attempting to do. Now, when you're sitting in the mirror and you're staring at yourself and you hate yourself for what you are, that happened after, kind of sobering up, because you're sitting in this barracks room in a police station for, I don't know, 5-6 hours. I think I got pulled over at like 10 or 11 at night. It wasn't too late. And I think I even remembered like wanting to call it an earlier night. And then, I didn't get released and driven home by the cop until 4 o'clock in the morning. So there's a lot of time there to at least sober up a little bit. And I'm so pickled at this point anyway that, even blowing a 0.2, I'm not, I'm still pretty lucid. I guess all of that just to say I hated myself and I wasn't going to get any better. And that was the realization while sitting in the mirror and looking, was that I didn't feel that I was going to be any better. And I didn't want to be the burden on my parents anymore. I'd spent a buttload of their money for zero reason. I didn't want to be a burden on my brothers. I didn't want to be weak or appear weak to my son. And the option there was to say, fuck it, I'm out. And as long as I leave, while it may hurt you in the beginning, it will be better off for everyone on the long run.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the justification. And then it was purely selfish why I stopped, because I didn't want to. After I'd done I'd start swallowing pills and just Advil and whatever the hell else is in my medicine cabinet. It's just going down. I realized it wasn't what I wanted to do. And I didn't know if it was too late, but I figured I was going to die on the road trying to get there at least.
You had a difficult transition, and really that is absolutely 100% normal. You're now sitting in a classroom. I mean, you were engaged with, in one of the most deadliest firefights, in the 20-year war on terror, that day that, that period from April 6th to April 10th in Ramadi, that would claim the lives of 33 Marines and a naval corpsman, and would end up injuring 300. And now you find yourself in a classroom with no relatable life experiences with anybody else in that classroom, feeling absolutely disconnected. Now, how would you feel in the morning after a long night of drinking, after, going through college, you go through a day of college, you get home, you drink, you're completely self-isolating. How did you feel the next morning after a night of drinking? Did you ever wake up and say, okay, I'm done with this, I feel like crap? Or could you not wait until that next afternoon or that next night to begin it all over again?
Some nights, some mornings, I'd wake up and say, "I'm not drinking again" for a
Yeah.
while, and every now and again, I would, stave off for a week or so or two. But then, after that little bit of time, I would just go right back to it, and I never truly kicked it, and I was just like, man, I'll just turn around and drink again because I want to, and that was kind of how it worked for me for a while.
From the experiences that you went through in war, do you ever have any of those triggering events or those experiences in the life that you're living now that bring you back to those places?
Not necessarily that it brings me back to a time or a fight, but I'm able now to recall. Well, and this is through a lot of work, but I'm able to recall any memory that I do remember. And when I want to recall it, I can. Or if it pops into my head, I'm able to understand why it's happening or why I might be thinking about that at this current juncture. So I'm able to process those memories now, and that has taken a lot of time and a lot of work. Uh, I wouldn't say that there isn't something out there that's a word or a phrase or something that's triggering, but smells are huge to me. And I live in Western Phoenix, so I'm out in the farmland. And while I love that, there is, there's all the animal smells, and then the water runoff smells, and a lot of those are uh, very similar to all the smells you smell in Iraq. All the farmland smells, all the waste smells, the porta shitter smells, all of that. You smell that, and it's the same smell no matter where you are in the world. So those smells have a tendency to remind me of memories or times while I'm, but nothing. I wouldn't say that it's triggering or debilitating. I would say that those things are triggering in that they cause the memory to start. It's then on me, and I found that out through this walk and through everything I'm doing now. It's on me to help process that for myself. Am I doing well at that right now? Not all the time, not even close. And the wife will tell you it's tough some days because sometimes I am still the person that goes, well, I don't really have anything to live for right now. I don't really care. It's all kind of, humdrum and blah. And it shouldn't be that way. But those are those nasty feelings that sometimes can still take hold of you.
Sure, sure. Uh, Jonathan, we're going to pause about 1 minute here. I'm going to give a shout out to today's show sponsor. And as soon as we get back here, I want to talk about your 5,807-mile trek across America and what inspired you to do it and what it was like. But first, today's show sponsor is Grill Your Ass Off, folks. Grill Your Ass Off is a veteran-owned Texas-based spice and seasoning company that is exploding on a national level. Now, Grill Your Ass Off has been featured on Fox Business, Fox and Friends, Forbes, Hiring America, and 360 magazine. Since the company's creation in 2016, Grill Your Ass Off has been on a wild roller coaster of unprecedented growth, becoming one of the fastest growing veteran-owned seasoning companies in America. Check out their wide variety of unique seasonings, spices, and sauces, and much more by visiting grillyourassoff.com today. Veteran-owned and Texas-made. See for yourself. Grillyourassoff.com. That's grillyourassoff.com, or call today 832-864-5856. Taste the freedom. You will not be disappointed Folks, we are back with U.S. Marine combat veteran Jonathan Hancock, who served 8.5 years in the United States Marine Corps and also completed 8 tours in operations OIF and OEF with 2-4, which would be named the moniker of the bloodiest battalion in the Marine Corps. Now, Jonathan, you would trek 5,807 miles across America. You had to get in shape. You said you were 308 pounds. What led to you completely losing yourself and getting up to that weight? I know a lot of it has to do with, the post-traumatic stress, but what kind of diet were you on when you got out of the Marine Corps? And then what did you have to do to change that ultimately to get down to 198 pounds, which began this journey across America?
So everyone's going to hate me for that because the diet never changed. The drinking hardly changed. The drinking changed a little bit, but it was the same diet. It was just the amount of calories I was burning every day. I'm riding to and from the jobs that I have. And now that I've got a second DUI, I don't have a car anymore. And so now if I want to see the folks, I'm riding my bike to and from my folks' house, which is, another 30 miles in the opposite direction. And so there are certain days where I would have done 60, 70 miles in a day. But at least every day I'm doing 30 miles. And so it's just an enormous amount of bicycling and just riding the mountain bike daily. I worked at a gym. And so I was just working out inside the gym instead of actually doing my job because it was a private gym and nobody really ever showed up. So it was a free for all. And I had every positive environmental factor to help me accomplish that without ever having to change my diet because I still needed massive amounts of calories to push through, 70 miles in a day if I'm doing that on a bicycle. So I ate crap and that was it. But I guess when I got down to the weight that I wanted to hit 200. And then just, one day I got on the scale and I was 198 and I was like, okay, that's it. We're good. We're good right there. And when I got to that point, I was probably another month or two off from leaving and actually starting the walk. And at that point I did try to eat very clean and healthy just to stave that off and then rest. And so I'd quit all the jobs. I was just ready to go. I was selling all the stuff I owned. And so I was trying to just maintain and be restful. And so I lots of green things, lots of chicken breast, and that was it. And just once I started walking, I realized I could then eat like I could treat my body like an amusement park again. And so I did.
How long did it take to lose that 100 pounds, John?
About 10 months.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, about 10 months. And that was constant, just thrashing every day. And ultimately it was beneficial. It probably wasn't a good way to do it. But just the sheer amount of workout volume was what was driving it.
Did you begin to love yourself again and seeing that confidence come back out in Jonathan Hancock once that 100 pounds was off and you could look at your mirror again and like the man that was staring back at you?
I still didn't like who was staring back at me. And ultimately the litmus test was if women found me attractive, and that was happening again. And so as that was happening, I was justifying that I'm doing the right thing because I'm hot. And that, of course, wrong mentality, but that's what was happening. And that was a metric I used to gauge how well it was going, I guess. But no, I didn't start liking myself again until a long way into the walk. And that's when I started liking myself again, was after I started shedding a lot of the crap and being out on my own for a long period of time and having those solitary arguments and cry sessions with yourself in the middle of the road. I mean, that's when things the work was really happening. And that's when I started, I guess, loving myself again.
Incredible. Folks, September 11th of 2015, Jonathan Hancock began this 5,807-mile walk across America, which began pretty much in his hometown, which he likes to say is Baltimore, Maryland, and finished December the 12th, 2016. So it took well over a year to get to that 5th Marines War Memorial in Camp Pendleton. Along the way, you visited 75 Gold Star families along the way. And like you said, once you got out on that open road and you began this walk, you began to heal yourself. Now, I know you didn't do the walk essentially to heal yourself. You did it to raise awareness for, veteran suicide and to do it for your brothers that were lost in Ramadi and in the Marine Corps that you served with. Did you ever think that it would really heal you?
No, I did. I thought I was still doing well, even after a suicide attempt. I thought I was doing well. And it wasn't necessarily that, and because the awareness thing is hard for me, but it wasn't necessarily that I was doing anything for awareness. It was totally the idea of my brothers are hurting. I need to go tell them it's okay. And I just need to be with them, not knowing that subconsciously that's my brain, my body saying, you've messed up and you need to go talk to your brothers about it. And a phone call just won't suffice. And so I wanted to do that. And over the course of time, that's when I started learning how much more this walk was about. I think I probably started realizing that within the first few visits, and then the first 2 or 3 weeks. I had gone north to Pennsylvania and then back down south to satiate a couple visits in Maryland and northern Maryland, and then back down through the Arlington National Cemetery, and then along the way. And I was given in that time period, I was given a lot of outs, and I was given a lot of opportunities to quit, both by Marine Corps brothers and by family members. And a lot of that resonated with me, and people don't think I can do this. And it was almost on me going, well, you can't do this. You've tried every other thing you could, and you couldn't do any of those things. And I don't think you can do this either. And that was a feeling I had for a few weeks. And then finally, after going for a few weeks, I started realizing that, and after meeting with a couple friends, I was capable of doing this, and that I needed to see how far I could go. And I didn't know if I was going to finish. I didn't know if I was going to die. I didn't know if I would quit down the road, but I just knew that I wasn't going to quit that day. And then I wanted to quit a lot, because I mean, you're walking in the middle of the sand hills in Nebraska. There's nothing there, right? You're walking in the Badlands in South Dakota. There's nothing there. But so cool. If you quit, you still got to walk somewhere to get to an airport. Like nobody's stopping to pick you up. You look homeless. So I quit a lot, but that even when I quit, it was just, okay, you've got, another 20 miles to make sure you're not quitting. And then you get that 20 miles down the road and you go, okay, I'm really not quitting. And it all changed for me. The first Gold Star family I met when we got down to Florida, and I met with Nina Schrag, and that Nina and the whole family, the Schrag family is Gold Star family to Dustin, who we lost during an amphib operation with another Marine, Jeff Green, and both of them unsuccessfully navigated the Euphrates and subsequently were stuck in the mud and drowned. And so when I met with Nina and Preston and Carrie and Jesse, it was a real eye-opening experience to see how they had worked through life since their loss. And for us to have so many similar experiences in how we're coping with things, it really turned the light on that I wasn't alone. Now, I had met with a lot of brothers along the way from Maryland all the way down, and of course, it's not a straight route. It's over into Tennessee, and then it's North Carolina, then Georgia, but then we're up in the Panhandle, but then down all the way to Miami, but then we cross over into Tampa. It gets real convoluted. I got the whole map drawn out, and even looking at it, you're like, good Lord, you walked all of this. It was really just where they were, and those long stretches of road were really the opportunity for me to really start learning about myself again, and learning that not only was I capable of doing this, but that I had to, because over the course of time, I'm telling you, it's my penance walk. It's me coming to terms with the piece of shit that I was and not wanting to be that person anymore, as well as trying to help show others that it was okay to be vulnerable. And so all of that was just coming out of me. It was exuding in different ways. And while I couldn't get a handle on everything and tell everybody everything successfully in a 30-second elevator pitch, I could get certain pieces across to him. And that's what was transforming this walk for me.
This walk, to me, you needed to do this. It was a reflection walk, if you will. You were reflecting. You had 1 year and 3 months to really rediscover yourself and recreate yourself and reinvent yourself and really have the vision on what you would become, on what type of life that Jonathan Hancock would ultimately live. Now, you had just said that you thought of yourself as a piece of shit for a long time, and again, we go back to this walk that you were doing. That was complete reflection, and I'm sure that walk did really show you how lost and how broken you were. But why did you think that you were a piece of shit?
I was a drunk most of the time, and I wasn't a good dad. I was around for my son, but I left that relationship of my own. I left. I broke up with that woman, and that's fine. That happens. But he suffered for that a little bit, and thank God he was young. I didn't see him as much as I should have, and I wanted to, but I also knew that I wasn't probably in the best place to be the best dad. And so I didn't, I hung out with him, once every 2 weeks type stuff versus, and he lives, 9 or 10 miles down the road from me. And I'm just, instead of focusing on that, I'm focusing on wanting to hang out with other friends or something. You know what I mean? And that, so that was, when I say I was a piece of shit, that, and then I was angry. And so if I'm drunk and angry in a bar, I'm confrontational. And I got in a lot of fights with students who, UMD college students who thought they were tough. And it wasn't right, but I did it. And, I was just kind of a shit kicker, man. And I didn't really care. And that's not a great way to go through life. And that's not a great human being to be. And from personal experience, I can tell you it's not. And so when I say I'm a piece of shit, that's really what it kind of boils down to, was that piece of my life between the Marine Corps and the walk, and even a little bit on the walk. But, when I'm trying to find myself, but that period in there wasn't great. It's worth talking about to show you how ungreat it was. But it's also something that I've learned not to beat myself up about now.
John, what did you learn from yourself during that walk?
That I'm deserving of a chance to prove to myself that I can do it better. And that the only one that was robbing me of that chance was me.
Do you think that walk saved your life?
100%. Yeah. And even in the deadly times of that walk, it very much saved my life. It very much gave me a chance to do things over again, and not necessarily start over, but come to terms with the things that I'd done wrong in the past and then leave them there.
Do you believe that the walk that you did, the 5,807-mile trek across America, has saved the lives of other veterans?
I hope it does. I hope it at least gives them the opportunity to see that change is possible. I hope it saved a life. Um, I hope it gave somebody pause and said, maybe I can do something else other than suck starting a 9 mil, or, downing all these pills or whatever it is. Just if it's given somebody that chance, then I hope it has. I know men and women have told me how meaningful it has been to them when they've met me, or when they've watched the film, or in their support to my nonprofit. And I hope it has, but I can't say for sure it has. But if it did, then we're doing it right,
Sure. And folks, if you say, wow, I really want to see what this walk looked like, hey, awesome, because he has a documentary that has been put out about his journey across the country. It's titled Bastard's Road. You may have heard about it. And if you haven't, I highly recommend you go out and you view it yourself. This film here, Bastard's Road, has won 7 Best Documentary of 2020 awards from multiple international film festivals. And I tell you, it is powerful. And I know that film right there, Bastard's Road, has indeed saved lives, because again, it shows the blueprint of a broken man who will heal himself out on the open road. And you identify with so many people out there that are going to watch that and say, you know what? That's me. And how can I heal myself? Well, I can do it by starting to get 1% better each and every day and build on that and bring back all those hallmarks of the Marine Corps, that discipline, and that commitment to wanting to be better, to wanting to change your life, because at the end of the day, only you can save you, and nobody else is going to do it for you. And until people can realize that you can have a great support system, and you can have loved ones around you that are there to help pick you up when you fall, but ultimately it boils down to the man in the mirror.
Yeah.
And it takes a great deal of courage, but again, it takes that mentality to say, you know what, I'm going to get up again, I'm going to get out of that chair, I'm going to get 1% better, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to put me back, to put this train that has derailed back on the train tracks and head forward to success. Now, did you explain some of the relationships that you have forged by walking across America?
I mean, there's so many, but the constant meeting with Gold Star families and with the Marines along the way, reforging those bonds or forging those relationships, meeting those mothers for the first time, or those families for the first time, and then sharing in grief. Those bonds are forged in history and blood, and those are amazing. And then the random there'd be news snippets along the way, and local news stations would find me on the road, and they would come out and do something, and then it would turn into "Where's Hancock?" And then people would see the news articles and then drive out and try to find me. And then when they would find me, they would donate money for lunch, or they would take pictures, or they would give me some trinket, and of their dad, who was a Vietnam vet or a World War II vet. And it was very impressive to see the country kind of support me in that way, or these different communities would just support me in the endeavor. And ultimately it was due a lot, I think, to people aligning with the story, and maybe not necessarily the combat aspect, but the story of someone attempting to redeem themselves or attempting to work on themselves. And that was apparent in many different encounters along the road with people that had not served. and just what people were going through in their day-to-day life and their experiences. And I thought that it gave me the opportunity. It kind of provided the platform for us to talk, and it gave me the opportunity to listen. And I was able to listen to a lot of different people tell me their story, and it was just sharing in that. And I think that was a huge piece of it.
Jonathan, we're all energy, humans, we have energy, there's feelings, there's, and it's very strong.
For sure.
When you went out to meet with these Gold Star families, oftentimes you were the last person to have maybe seen their son alive. Do some of these Gold Star families look at you as a second son?
Yeah. And that, I think it almost feels natural to feel like you fall right into that family because of how intimate the grief is that is shared. And I think that was a huge piece. And yeah, I do. And to this day, I still do. And that's a huge piece that others needed to see and needed to feel as well, was that just because you've lost your brother in combat doesn't mean that, and while he's gone, you now have a new relationship that you have to figure out. And that relationship with that Gold Star mother, because she has lost, and that loss is unfathomable to me. And but in that loss comes a desire to know more, and in that desire to be inquisitive, it turns into conversation. That conversation turns into love. That love blossoms into a massive relationship that you never knew was there. And it's opportune and it's prime, and it's something that every veteran who's experienced combat needs to do. Is they need to talk to those Gold Star families that are directly correlated to them.
Sure.
And that was the tough part. And even in that walk, there were quite a few Gold Star families that weren't ready, and it wasn't like I could force that. So, okay, hey, I got it, no worries, and maybe we'll talk sometime. But people opt out of wanting to discuss those things as well, and I get that. And so it's just on each other's time and on their timeline when they want to. But I think the thing that I learned was that I was being a support system for that, and in doing so, I was almost being a catalyst to help it along.
There is nothing that could ever replace the loss of a son or a daughter in combat when it comes to a Gold Star family member.
Right.
And you have a strong connection with so many of these Gold Star families of the men that you served with, and they have a piece of their puzzle that will never, ever, ever be replaced, or they will never get back. But what they do have is a new puzzle piece. And that comes in the form of Jonathan Hancock showing up at their doorstep to give them that connectivity that they're looking for through your eyes and through your experiences, again, as being a man that was with their loved ones who they hold near and dear to their heart, and they always will. And some of these Gold Star family members weren't ready to have these conversations or to meet with you in person, because it's going to open up those wounds. Those scabs become irritated and the bleeding starts all over again. Has it been a healing moment for you as well to say, you know what, I'm doing the right thing here, and this is what God wants me to do? God wants me to go meet with these Gold Star family members to kind of, again, not replace that puzzle piece, but to show up and say, I can offer you something from my heart that you can hold near and dear, and you can call me at any time if you ever want to talk about any of these issues that you may be going through, to where it could be healing for you as well as the Gold Star family member.
I think it's more about shared grief. And I think in that shared grief, we find an amount of understanding between each other. And I don't know where I sit in the God realm. I'm not religious. I take tenets from different religions across the world that I think are good, and I just try to be a decent human being. I don't think it was driven in that way to say I've got to do this from a religious aspect or like an outside entity of spirituality telling me that was what it was. But I have to respect those things in each person because some people believe that was what I was doing, and cool, no worries, and that's the belief structure. I got it. But for me, I think it was the ability to share in the grief. And Rosie Powers always puts it so great because she's just so blunt with it. And she goes, you can just have some of that too. And it's just the grief that they get to unload on you, and they never get to do that with anyone else because they know we're strong enough to take it, and they know we're strong enough to share in the grief because we were there when they died, or we were in that unit. And I wasn't there with every single person that died. That'd be a stretch. But I served alongside those men. And so being able to take that grief and allow that venting to happen is also a big bonus that Gold Star mothers don't realize that they get to experience. And once they do, it's almost addictive to be able to do that. And that's where that healing comes from, is the ability to unload the weight that you carry every day. If only for a few minutes, at least you get to unload it and on someone that understands and wouldn't judge it.
Yeah, it's powerful because you had that personal life experience with their loved one,
Yeah.
and again, by talking to you, it's almost as if they're trying to fill that void
Right.
that has been taken away from them. And again, I could definitely see where that could be extremely healing for both sides here, for
Sure.
you, as well as for them. Now, I know a lot of my
sorry, brother. But I think the other thing here is that it's the new memory that's built, and that's the piece that really that Marines and all my buddies and my brothers look forward to. Was we've got the old memories, but now we get to build the new ones, and the new ones of me coming and meeting with you and hanging out and seeing what you do for a living, and me cooking dinner and whatever it is that we're doing for the 1 or 2 day visit that I'm on with you. Those new memories don't necessarily they don't replace, but they in some ways get to overshadow, and those are good too.
Yeah, again, that's where the forged relationship comes in. New beginning, new opportunity. That's where that whole second son comes into place. Again, you're not going to replace them, but you are going to be there to help maybe fill that gap, of loss and shared grief. Now, we've only got 2 minutes left here, and I know my listeners are going to want to know a few more things about you and your walk, so we can do a quick Q&A here. Now, did you have a vehicle following you throughout this walk?
No.
So it was you in the open road?
That's me in the open road. I sold everything I owned. I started a GoFundMe, and then any money that I gained helped out any of the guys that I served with. It bought them dinner. It helped pay bills, helped get their cars back on the road. Whatever it was just things that I would use to help others.
Now, did you just shack up in cheap hotels along the way, or did you sleep outside?
I was in a tent most of the time. I'd take a hotel once, maybe twice a month, just to actually take a shower, sleep in a real bed. But no, it was a tent and a sleeping bag all across America, man.
Incredible, man. You are a legend, man. I mean, dude, in the work that you have done and put in now, what you're doing with your nonprofit Bastards Road Project, which brings veterans on long distance hikes throughout America's national parks, again, to help veterans heal from post-traumatic stress caused by the wounds of war. And they don't have a better champion in that mission than somebody that's walked 5,807 miles across America and slept outside 28 out of 31 days in a sleeping bag and showered once or twice, perhaps a month. So again, you said you were looking homeless.
Yeah.
And again, I credit you to that, because a lot of folks that do these treks across America have RVs behind them, for their safety vehicles, whatever. But it sounds like you hit the open road. You did it on your own. You were able to heal. You were able to rediscover, reinvent, and recreate who Jonathan Hancock would end up becoming. And for that, you were a better man.
Well, thanks, brother. That means a lot. And it was definitely a trek, that's for sure. And it goes down in the history books in my mind as something, I'm very proud of. But it was just the beginning. So now it's on to, now I know what needs to be done, and I have to continue to do that.
Well, you should be very proud of yourself. And I know I am, and I know there's 20.2 million American veterans out there who are, and I know there's far more many Americans out there who stand by you in everything that you've done. But Jonathan, it has been a pleasure having you on today's show. We sincerely appreciate everything you have done and continue to do in the military and veteran community. Your service, sacrifice, and dedication to our great nation is truly admirable.
Well, thanks, brother. Thanks for having me on today, man. Thanks for getting the word out a little bit more.
Absolutely. Guys, walk long distances and figure some shit out. That is today's famous quote from our man here, John Hancock. Walk long distances, figure some shit out. Folks, get out there and make yourself better today. Get that endorphin rush. But anyways, folks, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the program. It has never been easier to listen to this podcast. Folks, we're on Facebook, Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TikTok, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Simply search Today with Tally. Folks, remember to always stay inspired, stay encouraged, stay motivated, and always stay in the fight. Until next time, for the Today with Tally podcast, this is Brian.